Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining in today. So, today we are having a medieval webinar. The title of the webinar is Oculomics and Dr. Noon in Practice. We have with us Prof Sungha Park. He is a distinguished professor of internal medicine at the Division of Cardiology at the Severance Cardiovascular Hospital, as well as the Yonsei Medical College in Seoul, South Korea. So he'll be sharing some of his experience with the Dr. Noon product with us. And you also have me. I'll be introducing Oculomics and some of the medieval research that we have done in this domain. So today, the order of events is I'll go first. I'll give an introduction about Oculomics, and then it will be followed by Prof. Park's presentation. In the end, we have some buffer time for taking a questions or two from the chat and also discussing some of the interesting findings that we have found. So, this is an introduction to me. I am handling medical affairs at Medivale right now, and I also have academic positions at the Singapore National Eye Center, Singapore Eye Research Institute, and also the Duke NUS Medical School. The title is Introduction to Oculomics, and this is the talk schematic. So we'll be going through oculomics, how we can address the CKN care, which is an urgent situation that the world is facing. What is Dr. Noon's CVD exactly? How was it developed? What is the evidence? Where is it? And what does it mean for your practice? Additionally, we'll also discuss some other AI solutions that are available or being developed by the Medieval team. So overall, it has been a great collaboration from academia to industry, and I like to show this slide always first. The product was developed as a partnership between the Singapore National Eye Center, Singapore Eye Research Institute, the Duke NUS Medical School, the Yonsei University. You can see Prof. Park there as well, and the Medieval team. And it's very important to highlight that a lot of research has gone into whatever we show today. So overall, everything goes back to history first. So, from historical observations, these are some of the giants in ophthalmology. Von Helmont, who found the ophthalmoscope, von Graffe, who developed more on it and also found the sign papilledema in the eye. And then this in the middle is Dr. Gunn, who found the Gunn sign, which is the AV nicking sign. And on the right is Jose Rizal, who's looking into the eyes of patients in Philippines, and he went on to become the father of the Philippine Revolution. So the eye has been always a very interesting area to study. Why? Because there are a lot of systemic diseases that can present in the eye, especially diabetic retinopathy and hypertensive retinopathy. Both of them have very characteristic signs in the eye, and these signs have been known to be associated with systemic consequences. So these hemorrhages, the microaneurysm, the cotton wool spot, the AV nicking, and the narrowing of the arteriolar vessels are associated with clinical stroke, with the coronary heart disease, and cardiovascular mortality. However, there is an issue. There is a lot of subjectivity between the doctors themselves. A lot of times, one of the very interesting Google studies showed that even for the same person, when the same doctor is grading the images, the intra-grader reliability and the inter-grader consistency of their gradings is only about 60%, which shows that even though these signs in the eye are associated with systemic disease, it is very difficult to translate it clinically. So what can we do? And therein AI comes in. So a specific domain of AI, which is known as deep learning. Deep learning is very similar to how you teach a small child to write a complex document. So you go from letters to words to more complicated sentences, paragraphs, and then forming a document. Similarly, the images, they are made up of textures, contrast, and edges. The machine can learn these features of the retinal image and then can give us predictions. So it can do amazing things like predicting whether the image has a disease or not. So in this case, severe non-proliferative diabetic retinopathy. So what this allows us to do is open up into a new domain. This domain is called oculomics. It is basically based on the concept of eye as the window into systemic diseases. It was a term that was coined from the Moorfield group, from Prof. Keen's group. And it's the unique feature of the retina because it's the only human tissue which allows you to look at the microvasculature as well as the nervous system in situ, which means that you don't need to go in non-invasively. You can look at these uh, anatomical tissues. It is not just the retina. Different parts of the eye also are having systemic changes, and different groups have been trying to understand from different parts of the eye how these changes that you can see in the eye can be translated into a product. Going on, there has been a lot of interest in the last few years in the domain of oculomics. And this basically has been driven by AI becoming one of the keywords, which is uh, quite a new in thing right now. And especially with the computational power and the GPUs becoming cheaper, there is a likelihood that this is going to go up even more. So thus we can understand that the eyes do offer a solution, especially in cases where we want to non-invasively measure a biomarker. So Medivale has been building upon this as well. So we have a wide variety of different AI algorithms. Our baseline philosophy is we want to have one retina scan for whole body health. So I'll basically start from the Dr. Noon CVD, which is our cardiovascular product. Our product is approved in the European region, and in addition to that, the Korean FDA, as well as UK and five other regions, which includes Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, uh, and soon we will have an entry into the US market as well, hopefully with our FDA submission by the end of this year. So going on, CVD has been expanded into the new domain of the cardio-kidney metabolic health. It is assumed that about 90% of US adults they meet the CKM criteria one, which means that there is a significant amount of healthcare costs associated with managing the disease. And the focus is on prevention. And for prevention, you need a tool that can identify the disease early. So that is why Dr. Noon's CVD comes into play. So this was the development paper wherein we explain how the tool was developed. Essentially, you have paired retinal images and CT scans. And once you pass these paired scans through an algorithm, what you can get is a retinal analog of the coronary artery calcium. The unique thing about this retinal analog is it gives you the Kaplan-Meier curves, which you can see on the right-hand side, which compare the retinal biomarker with the coronary artery calcium. The risk stratification that the biomarker can do is very similar to what you get from the CT scan. Then we went on to also compare it with the other non-invasive modalities which are available. In this case, it's the branchial pulse wave velocity as well as the carotid internal thickness, which comes from the carotid ultrasound. This was the same publication that also got us the Korean FDA approval. In this paper, we were able to show that again, the risk stratification that you see on the Kaplan-Meier curves is very similar in the retinal product as compared to the CT scan. In addition to that, we were further able to show that the C statistic actually outperformed, in this case, the retinal biomarker outperformed or other non-invasive modalities. So overall, we can quickly see what is the competitive advantage that we have over other non-invasive modalities of cardiovascular risk stratification. Essentially, we are just using the retinal scan, which is non-invasive, which is from a much cheaper machine with a smaller footprint. It is quite accurate, quite accessible, and relatively affordable when compared to the other modalities. So this is how the different products are classified. So our product falls under the class 2A, and these are the approvals that we have, which I previously mentioned as well. So typically, this is the patient journey. The patient comes in, they have an interview, the eye photo is taken, the images are uploaded into Medivale server where they are analyzed, and then a risk report is generated. Depending upon the report, the physician can decide to do the intervention, which is the low risk, mid risk, or high risk. Essentially, it's the high risk group which require some sort of a medication, whereas the low risk groups are the ones that can be followed up actively, and we recommend a 1 year follow-up for this group. So this is what the patient journey looks like. So this is a retinal camera. The whole process takes about 2 minutes to capture the image of the. You can see here that the pupil just constricted, which means that you don't need to dilate patients for this. And it shows you the 3 steps that we do for the analysis of the cardiovascular risk. So once the summary of the health is generated, it looks something like this. This is the practitioner view, which shows the patient's report. And then this is the risk report that comes out. So the risk report is a 3-page report which shows the risk that the person has, the cardiovascular risk stratification group that they are placed in. And finally, on the third page, they have the education or the patient physician behavioral change tool, which has all the information that is presented in the first 2 pages, and in addition to that, has the AHA Healthy Lifestyle Aid right there baked into the report. So it's meant to be a one-stop solution for cardiovascular, for primary cardiovascular risk prevention. The important thing here is it's very critical that we are able to work across a diverse set of cameras. So we are able to work with the majority of the top manufacturers and the different cameras that are out there. This is one of the issues which is quite important to solve whenever you are designing an AI algorithm, the issue of generalizability. But we were quite cognizant of the fact and we made sure that we work across different type of machines. So I'll show you some of the testimonials. So one of this testimonial comes from Glucare Dubai. They are one of the first clinics that are actively using the product and running a prospective cohort study right now. The problems that we have right now with the current way how cardiovascular risk is measured is that a lot of times it's difficult to access it. There is also a high rate of rejection when you try to get the reimbursement for a coronary artery calcium, especially for the younger age group. With the retinal scan, it is able to give you performance similar to the coronary artery calcium, as well as what's important is the accessibility and part is addressed. There are different type patient pathways that we have developed for some of our partners. So in this patient pathway, everyone undergoes the Dr. Noon CVD screening. Anyone who is moderate or high risk goes to a cardiologist. And once they decide that yes, on some of the diagnostic tests, there are additional features which need intervention or some sort of additional investigation, they go ahead and do a CTCA or a CT angiogram after they have done the preliminary testing, which includes the stress test, the IMT, the advanced lipid panel, and the ECG. So we also did previously a webinar with Dr. Adalis, so you can scan the QR code and listen to her how she implements this solution in her day-to-day practice as a cardiologist at Blue Care Health. Going on, we are also working with partners like Nephro Center in Italy. So this is a large Italian healthcare group, but they deal primarily with people who need dialysis. So they follow a different type of pathway in this case. First there is a consultation followed by the patients who have metabolic syndrome. They undergo the AI testing, which means that the product is quite flexible and it is up to the partners how they want to put it in their own clinical practice. We have also shown not just in large longitudinal cohorts, but also in cross-sectional comparisons that the product can be compared with the current risk calculators which are available. And it has a high sensitivity specificities in the 80s when compared to these risk calculators. However, while validation can be done indirectly in this way using a cross-sectional cohort, ideally, you always need a longitudinal cohort to evaluate a product like Dr. Newell CBD. This is our global partner network. So recently we have done a partnership with Dongha ST in South Korea, which is a large pharma company. In addition to that, we have a presence in UK with our partner Heart Eye, who is doing great work. And we plan to enter the US with our FDA approval hopefully soon by 2026. Going on, we have had about 62 publications as of September 2025, and I'm quite thankful that I work with a very active academic team at Medivale. So in 2025, we have done a lot of presentations, and one of them was also the ESC Congress presentation, which was the invited presentation for Prof Park. In addition to that, later this year, we have some abstracts at the ASN and also at the AHA, which includes a late-breaking oral presentation at AHA. So I'll show you some of the work that we have done. So we always try to expand our product into more populations. So this was one of the works that we presented at AHA last year, expanding our product's indication for use into the Spanish and Indian populations. Going on, we always try to see how to clinically link the product. So in this abstract, we were able to show that there is a 36% relative risk reduction when statins are started in the high risk group. This leads to a NNT, the number needed to treat, of 37, which is quite high to prevent one CVD event. Going on, this year at AHA, we also delved into the domain of metabolomics. We were able to show that when the retinal biomarker is combined with metabolites, there is an increase in the performance. But the amazing thing here is that the performance is similar to how the pool cohort equation also works with metabolites, showing that yes, metabolites add on information onto the biomarker, but the biomarker is already good enough when compared with the current standard of care, which is the pool cohort equation. It is also a privilege of mine to report that now results have started to come in from our partners as well. So our partner Glucare Health also presented at ADA. Hopefully next year, more of our partners can also present their work at different conferences. The unique thing that has happened in the little time that I have been with the company and also working with Medivale is the product has moved from in silico in 2021 to state of the art in 2024. And that kind of shows how research that has been done in the oculomics space is kind of opening up these new avenues that the cardiologists are quite interested in. Going on, we have also been featured in other publications, especially high impact publications in ophthalmology. So, this is a review in the progress in retinal and eye research, which kind of shows that how RetiCVD is the only algorithm which has been shown to demonstrate a performance in a pivotal regulated trial in Korea, and how it can serve as a cost effective method that can optimize resource use for cardiovascular risk stratification. Overall, we have been trying to build consensus and drive positive change. So this is Prof. Eric Topol, and he had this to talk about when he gave a TED Talk in 2023.
Now, that was interesting, but now still with deep learning models, not transformer models, we've seen and learned that the ability for computer vision to pick up things that human eyes can't see is quite remarkable. Here's the retina, picking up the control of diabetes and blood pressure, kidney disease, liver and gallbladder disease, the heart calcium score, which you would normally get through a scan of the heart, Alzheimer's disease before any clinical symptoms have been manifest, predicting heart attacks and strokes, hyperlipidemia, and 7 years before any symptoms of Parkinson's disease to pick that up. Now, this is interesting because in the future, we'll be taking pictures of our retina as checkups. This is the gateway to almost every system in the body.
So he also wrote a decent book, Super Ages. So our product was also featured in that. Overall, as I mentioned, we have been trying to address different domains. So one of our product is also the Dr. Noon Fundus, which does the eye disease screening. So it has shown a good performance for glaucoma and diabetic retinopathy in this study published from Indian subjects. Then we have been also doing a lot of work for chronic kidney disease, so CKD identification. This was our CKD development paper in which we demonstrate that the the retina is able to predict people who have high risk of the chronic kidney disease. We have also been expanding on this work to kind of show that the model, which is the RETI-CVD model, it is able to perform as good as the prevent model when looking at patients with different levels of EGFR, and how it is able to give a performance which is quite similar to the latest new calculator that has come out from the AHA, which is the prevent calculator. This year at ADA, we also showed some additional work which shows that the CKD prediction can be done using the Dr. Noon CKD score and using the RETI EGFR, which is an intermediate product. Finally, as we move towards the work that we are doing, we have been awarded quite a lot of awards, and I think the team has done an amazing job in making sure that whatever research we do is properly explained to different stakeholders. As a part of that, we have been part of different accelerator programs, like the Mayo Clinic program, the HeartX, the J&J lab. And also, our AI team has been actively working to get at the forefront of AI and medical imaging. So we have won some awards at MICAI as well. So this is overall what we kind of envision that in the future we are going to have these booths where retinal images will be taken as one of the primary ways of measuring what kind of risk you have, and then immediately you can talk to your doctor and get a prescription. And overall, from the current toolkit that a clinician has, we are moving towards more digital tools, having your digital clones. And in that space, the retina becomes a very important window of trying to understand what is going wrong with your body, and especially trying to get to these signs of the disease at the earliest stage possible. So finally, why are we here today? AI is changing medicine rapidly. Opportunity is there to capitalize. We can drive positive change together. So please do reach out to us. You can scan the QR code. We'll take you to our contact pages, wherein you can reach out to us and we can try and do some good research together. So to show our work that is coming up, so at AHA we have a few presentations. In addition to that, at ASN we are presenting a few abstracts as well. Finally, I'll move on to our next presenter, and it is my proud privilege to introduce Prof Sungha Park to all of you. Prof Park, as I mentioned before, is a professor of internal medicine at the Severance Hospital, Yonsei University College Medicine in Seoul. Prof. Park has been working in different capacities at the University College of Medicine. He also went to the NIH as a visiting fellow. In addition to that, um, he has been actively leading multiple professional societies and also is an associate editor for the Journal of Clinical Hypertension and Hypertension Research. The image that you see is of Prof. Park from the ESC this year. He's a frequent invited speaker at international conferences, and his research focuses on hypertension, cardiovascular risk stratification, therapeutic safety, and needless to say, he has a lot of publications in high impact journals. And today he'll be with us to give us some more knowledge about the AI products that he's been working on in partnership with Anyway. So thank you for coming, Prof. Park. Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you for the kind introduction. There are some overlaps on my slide with Sahir. I'll try to go rapidly beyond those slides that are overlapping. So my talk will mainly focus on retinal scanning and cardiovascular disease. As mentioned earlier, this was the famed Scottish physician, Marcus Gunn. He wrote more than 100 years ago that retinal arterial narrowing may represent general arterial diseases in the kidneys and the brain, which Sahir has shown you, has been proven to be true over time. Abnormalities in the retinal arterioles well represents systemic changes in the small arteries, and studies have shown that small arterial remodeling is associated with adverse cardiovascular prognosis. So for example, this is a study done in 40 subjects who underwent subcutaneous biopsies during surgical procedures. And they found that the media to lumen ratio, which is a marker of adverse arterial remodeling, well correlates with the wall to lumen ratio of the retinal arterioles, which was measured using laser Doppler fluorometry. And numerous studies have shown that signs of hypertensive retinopathy, such as hemorrhage, microaneurysms, cotton wool spots, AV nicking, and arterial narrowing, are associated with various cardiovascular diseases in one form or another. So there's no doubt that findings from the retina is a predictor of adverse cardiovascular disease. But as shown earlier by Sahir, the problem is the lack of agreement, even among ophthalmologists, for example. This is a systematic review of studies done in hypertensive retinopathy. Although the agreement for findings such as hemorrhages and exudates is good, you see that for findings such as AV nicking and focal arterial narrowing, the agreement is only mild to moderate at best. So we all know that from previous studies that retinal abnormalities are associated with increased risk of cardiovascular disease. However, it can be subjective with varying integrator agreement. So that is where we come with the application of AI technology in this field. So back in 2018, the engineers at Google published this paper in Nature Biomedical Engineering. They wanted to see whether the AI can predict cardiovascular risk factors only by using fundus photography. They wanted to see whether AI can predict the age, gender, BMI, hemoglobin A1C, smoking status, and blood pressure just by looking at the fundus photography. You can see that although the AI didn't perform very well for predicting hemoglobin A1C, blood pressure, and BMI, it did a good job in predicting age, gender, and smoking status. In fact, when you look at the AUC for gender, it was 0.97, which is remarkable when you consider that the human eye cannot apparently discern a gender by just looking at the fundus photography. So from this study, one can derive the information that the AI can give you some informations that the human eyes cannot. So recently, great interest has been growing with regards to the application of AI and using fundus photography and AI to predict cardiovascular disease. For example, in these two studies, the investigators used AI to measure the retinal vessel calibers to predict cardiovascular disease. So these efforts are ongoing. And also, this was another study done at Seoul National University, another leading research center in Korea. What they did was the Seoul National University has a huge health promotion center, health screening center, and they used data from that health screening center to do this study. They used a deep learning model to train 15,000 images of fundus photography and carotid ultrasound, with the ground truth being the presence of carotid atherosclerosis. And they found that this algorithm predicted the presence of atherosclerosis with AUC of 0.713. And when they applied this algorithm to 32,000 other subjects with only fundus photography, they found that those with upper tertile score compared to those with the lowest tertile scores had 8.8 times the risk of cardiovascular mortality. In our case, as previously mentioned by Sahir, we developed a deep learning-based coronary calcium prediction score derived from retinal photography to both predict and stratify cardiovascular risk. in a population cohort. So this, the results from this study was published in Lancet Digital Health in 2021. So the first developmental set and internal test set was a health screening center at Yonsei University. We used 19,000 participants for this effort. And the second database was another independent health screening center consisting of about 8,700 participants, which was used as the first external test set. Next was a cohort at Yonsei University, a hospital cohort consisting of subjects with high-risk hypertension, diabetes, and CKD. And we used 527 subjects from this data set as the second external test set. Next, we used the Singapore Epidemiology Eye Disease cohort, or SEED, which consisted of about 5,800 participants and about 47,000 participants from the UK Biobank for further validation of cardiovascular outcomes. So the input was the fundus photography and the calcium score, and the output was the presence of chorionic calcium. The ground truth was the presence of chorionic calcium. And the output was the prediction score for the presence of chorionic calcium score. And you can see that when the calcium score was divided into tertiles, the upper tertile consists of subjects who had risk of 0.4 or more than 40% risk of having a chorionic calcium score. And when this data was applied to the aforementioned CMERC study, those subjects who had a high risk score showed progressive increase in the risk for cardiovascular disease. And you can see when you look at the C statistics, it was similar to the chorionic calcium score. On the right, you see a comparison of the aforementioned RETI-CAC score compared to other major cardiovascular risk factors in terms of their predictive ability to predict the presence of chorionic calcium. And you can see that among the single major risk factors, the RETI-CAC score had the best performance in predicting the presence of chorionic calcium. In fact, it was even better than age, which, as you all know, as a single parameter, is the single most strongest predictor for the presence of chorionic calcium. On the left is the results from the aforementioned Google study, and they found that similarly, the AI fundus algorithm had the best performance in predicting the 5-year MACE from the UK Biobank study compared to other cardiovascular major risk factors. Next, we wanted to see whether how RETI-CAC score performed in terms of predicting cardiovascular events from both the SEED dataset and the UK Biobank dataset. And you can see that with progressive increase in the RETI-CAC score, there was a significant increase in the risk of both cardiovascular mortality and combined fatal and non-fatal cardiovascular events. Lastly, we wanted to see whether this RETI-CAC score can further stratify cardiovascular risk in the borderline to intermediate risk groups from the UK Biobank, which is a role as a risk enhancer in subjects with borderline and intermediate risk. So the important point of this finding is that we wanted to see how RETI-CAC score can perform as a risk enhancer in determining in helping clinical decision making in subjects who are considered for primary prevention of cardiovascular disease. And the results show that for both fatal cardiovascular events and fatal and non-fatal composite events, you can see that for both borderline and intermediate risk groups, the RETI-CAC score was able to further stratify risk, as you can see in the left. And in these borderline to intermediate risk groups, compared to the pooled cohort equation, RETI-CAC score improve the C-statistics significantly for both fatal events and the composite of fatal and non-fatal events. And for fatal events, the net NRI was 0.261. And for both fatal and non-fatal events, the NRI was 0.222. A question that can come up is, then what is the AI actually looking at when they're predicting these risks? So this is the corresponding saliency maps of the retinal photography and the CT scan. In the first case, you see a case with a low RETI-CAC score and a corneal calcium score of 0. And you can see from the saliency map that the AI is mainly looking at the normal vessels and the fundus from the picture that you see here. And when you look at the second and third case, these cases are cases with high RETI-CAC score more than 0.4 with high calcium score. And you can see that the AI is mainly looking at the abnormal retinal arterial calibers, the AV nicking, the retinal hemorrhages, and the cotton wool spots. So from these saliency maps, you can see that the AI is mainly looking at the places that we expect them to look at when they're predicting cardiovascular risk. This was another slide that Sahir showed, but I think this is very important. This study compared RETI-CVD score, which at this point, we renamed RETI-CAC score as RETI-CVD score. So this was a comparison of RETI-CVD score with pooled cohort equation and the Q-risk score and the Framingham risk score from the UK Biobank and the Singapore Epidemiology of Eye Disease study. And you can see that for predicting intermediate to risk groups from these risk engines, the RETI-CVD score had a good sensitivity and specificity compared to the ASCVD risk according to pooled cohort equation, the Q-risk score, and the Framingham risk score. This was a validation of the RETI-CVD in the US population. It was presented in 2022 AHA meeting. So the cohort, the database used was the US population of the age-related eye disease studies, ARED study. So 3,500 subjects. The subjects mainly consisted of a relatively elderly population of more than 70. And the subjects had about 7.9% had ASCVD events and 2.4% had fatal events during a 13-year follow-up. So relatively not a high-risk population. But the studies show that RETI-CVD, with progressive increase in RETI-CVD, there was a significant increase in the risk of both fatal and non-fatal events. And the NRI from this study was also similar to the previous data I've shown with the UK Biobank. So it improved the overall performance of the traditional risk model with NRI of 0.247 for ASCVD events and 0.232 for fatal events. And also from this study, the saliency map also showed that the AI focused mainly on arterial remodeling, such as AV nicking and arterial narrowing. So this device, as mentioned earlier, from the pivotal trial, the KFDA approved this device for use in the clinic. It was a temporary approval with a formal process for reimbursement to be done in 2027. So you can see that only minimal space is needed for this examination. It takes less than 5 minutes to get all the results. And an important thing is that you don't need a mydriasis to perform this examination. You can use a non-mydriatic retinal cameras. It's very simple to do. You don't need a trained technician to do the examination. And when you send the image to AI, the analysis is done regarding the cardiovascular risk and retinal abnormalities. And hopefully in the future, as elegantly presented by Sahir, we can get information on the risk for future cardiovascular CKDs, perhaps future risk for having dementia and so on. So these are very exciting fields of research that is ongoing, driven by Mediware. I'm going to show you a case, a very interesting case, I believe. This is a 46-year-old woman. She presented with uncontrolled hypertension and significant albuminuria. She was, as you can see, obese and was taking antihypertensive medications as shown here. On the echo, she showed a presence of LV hypertrophy due to the hypertension and significant albuminuria. But when we calculated the ASCVD risk score according to her blood pressure and her age and her lipid status, she only had an ASCVD risk score of 2.7, which is remarkable when you think about it. But when we did this examination, her cardiovascular risk score came out as high risk, as you can expect. It came as high risk, and both of her eyes had signs of hypertensive retinopathy. So based on these results, I intensified the blood pressure medications and added a statin for primary prevention. So this, because these AI algorithms, the performance of AI algorithms can suffer when applied to real-world data. Medware and Yonsei University performed this study. It was a prospective study done in outpatient clinic at Yonsei University. So we enrolled about 500 subjects without previous history of MI or stroke. And you can see that it showed a pretty good correlation with the pooled core equation risk groups. And the high risk score for RETI-CVD had an AUC of 0.827 and sensitivity of 80% and specificity of 70% for predicting intermediate to high risk group according to the pooled core equation. So it performed similarly to the aforementioned studies that we showed you in a real world OPD outpatient setting. So this is a good sign, I believe. So this was also previously mentioned by Sahir, and this is a side-by-side comparison of this retinal examination, calcium score, and carotid ultrasound. And some of the very promising features of retinal scanning is that it has no radiation exposure. It can be readily done in the primary care settings, which is probably not possible for coronary calcium scores. And you don't need an expert examiner for this examination, which is, I believe, a very powerful thing for this examination. And you can get results within minutes. And the cost of the machine, when you think about it, I don't know the case with the United States, but the fundus camera only cost a fraction of the cost of the CT machine and the vascular ultrasound machine. But with regards to cardiovascular risk stratification, I think it's promising, but it needs further validation. So one of the ongoing validation study is this study comparing RETI-CVD with calcium scores in the multi-ethnic study of atherosclerosis, the Rotterdam study in Europe, and ELSA Brazil, which is called a MERO study. And the results from this study will be presented at the AHA Late-Breaking International Symposium on Friday, November 7th. So I hope all of you will have the opportunity to listen and see the results from this very important study. So this is the take-home message from my presentation. So as I've shown you earlier, small vessel remodeling is a marker of systemic target organ damage and is associated with adverse cardiovascular outcomes. The retina is a unique site where the in vivo microvasculature can be directly visualized. I think it's the only organ where you can visualize the microvasculature directly. So I think that is why it's so very important. And a range of retina abnormalities are closely related to clinical and subclinical cardiovascular outcomes. While previously these important findings could not be quantified non-invasively, with the use of AI technology, it is becoming more and more possible, which is a very exciting finding for the future. And so deep learning system of retinal photographs and vasculature can offer more precise CV risk stratification, I believe. And also preliminary studies have shown that deep learning algorithm analyzing fundus photography for predicting corneal calcium may be comparable to traditional risk models for CVD risk stratification and may have value in risk stratification in the borderline to intermediate risk groups, and may have, I believe, an important role for being a risk enhancer when we are having a dilemma about whether or not to use statins in these special groups of patients. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Prof. Park. I think the points that you have raised are very important. And I think, yeah, in the interest of time, probably I'll ask you one question and then we can close it. I think my question is very simple. Uh, it's simple, but I think it has a very complicated answer. And I think some of the points you have already raised in your talk as well. We know that we have a biomarker which is quite exciting. Some of the initial results that we have are also exciting and match coronary artery calcium. And I think some of the points that you highlighted that still more validation is needed. Still, we need to demonstrate the generalizability aspect of the biomarker. And in addition to the generalizability, we still need to show that the biomarker performs similarly in different populations. What additional steps do you feel are required for translation of this biomarker into kind of a ubiquitous something that comes immediately to every cardiologist's mind kind of a test? So what do you think will be required?
Yeah, well, as you know, Sahir, the major guidelines do not recommend the use of calcium score or carotid ultrasound as strongly as we would hope. The reason being that there isn't a prospective randomized study to show that these biomarkers improve cardiovascular outcomes. So for this biomarker to be established as an important part of clinical evaluation and management, in the long term, I believe a prospective randomized study is needed to see that using these biomarkers not only improve cardiovascular prognosis, but has an impact on the cardiovascular cost overall. So a positive impact on health outcomes, both economically and for cardiovascular disease, I believe is needed for this to be more accepted. So as you know, in Korea, calcium score isn't reimbursed currently. It's all only performed in health centers. It's because it doesn't have a randomized outcome studies. So I think that is a thing that is needed long term. Not yet, I guess, but in the long term, I believe that's the next important step.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree with you, Prof. Finally, I think the RCTs are something which are uh, the most important scale that you can measure any intervention against. And I think you've also highlighted how important it is to demonstrate the impact on outcomes, and not just outcomes in the cardiovascular sense, but also the quality of life and also the cost effectiveness aspect, because at the end of the day we know that with the current economic state all across the world, it is very important to be cost effective while also providing the highest quality of care that is possible. So I think, yeah, thank you so much, Prof, for being with us and taking your time out. I know you have to leave for your rounds now, but thank you so much for being with us. And hopefully, I think with the results that we can show, we can do another webinar quite soon, wherein we can probably highlight what additional findings we have found that we'll be presenting later this year. So thank you so much again, and thank you everyone for joining in. So Medivail keeps on doing webinars like these. Do connect with our socials. Reach out to us if you have a suggestion for a study or if you have a data set that you want to share with us. And thank you so much and have a good day.